This is the story of a car that dared to be different and brought the term super down to our level. This is the story of the Honda NSX. In the 1980s, Honda was emerging as a performance machine, especially in Formula One, where they were a chief engine supplier to McLaren. Ever heard of them? And the McLaren Honda team was rather good. In 1988, for instance, they won the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championship, and to see how good they were, out of the 16 races contested that season, they got in pole position 16 times and won 15 races. That's not bad. And as such, they wanted to celebrate the guys at Honda. So, Honda decided to develop a mid-engine supercar from the ground up, with a target of the Ferrari 328. That's a pretty high benchmark, and they immediately went to work with a few prerequisites in mind. First, it must be good handling, and second, it must be a cheap, daily drivable, reliable car. Something that no supercar had ever managed. Heck, Ferraris were so unreliable, they birthed the invention of Lamborghini just because they were so unreliable. And that is when they decided to get to work on the new Sports X. X, in mathematical languages, is a variable, and you have to solve for it, so it's unknown. It's an unknown variable. So it was really New Sports Unknown Variable, or NSX, and they decided to call it the NSX because that's a much better name. Anyway, on to the development process. They had to build a factory from the ground up to make the aluminum body panels necessary for their chassis. And it was a good thing they did that, because the chassis weighed 400 pounds less than if they didn't use that technique. And they also used that same technique on the suspension, saving another 44 pounds out of the weight. And then, speaking of the suspension, they wanted to make it good handling. So they contacted their current Formula One driver, Ayrton Senna. Ever heard of him? Only one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time. He and a bunch of engineers tested all over the place. Nürburgring, Suzuka, Fuji, you name it, they were at that track, spending 5 days a week testing, tuning, and perfecting the suspension. And then, in 1991, they launched the NSX. It made a 270 horsepower and did the... what? Had a top speed of 168. That's... what? Yes, the NSX would be absolutely demolished by anything north of a Focus, but straight line speed is only half the equation for supercars, amigo. The other half is handling. And it was rather good at that. It was Lil White Car Driver, one of the best handling cars over 30k. That's pretty damn impressive. However, the more impressive thing about it was not the handling or the comfort, it was the reliability. As late as 2017, there are numerous examples of these NSXs reaching over 150,000 miles on the odometer, 150,000 in a supercar. That's insane. Moving on back to the 1990s here, getting away from the 2000s, with the NSX Type R, or just NSX-R. This was a more track-focused, even more hardcore vehicle. And it saved even more weight, 270 pounds of it to be exact, meaning It only weighed 2,700 pounds. So that puny 270 horsepower just got a big old bump in the power to weight ratio. Now, if you want a Type R, it's going to be a bit tricky because they made less than 500 in 3 years, so they're quite rare. And then the NSX kind of soldiered on to the last few years of the century, with the NSX convertible releasing in 1995, and as well as upgrading the 2.3-liter V6 to make 290 horsepower in 1997, shrinking the 0 to 60 time down to a respectable 4.5 seconds. However, minor technological improvements could not carry this car forever, so in 2002, they gave it a full facelift. They gave it better styling, which not only increased the look of the car to fit in with the new 21st century, but also it reduced drag, increasing the top speed to 175 miles an hour. The NSX-R gets over 290 horsepower, well, they don't say how much, and although it gained an extra 100 pounds, bringing the car to a ridiculous 2,800 pounds, can't even believe it moves at that weight, it got better balancing and better handling, and it shows with a 7-minute and 56-second Nürburgring lap. That's pretty darn impressive. But if you want the ultimate NSX, there is only one you can get. 5 examples of the NSX-R GT were produced as homologation requirements for the Super GT category. No one knows how much power, how much weight are in these vehicles because they never advertised them. They kind of secretly sold the 5 requirements that we sold them and moved on. And then we get to the reason it existed at all. Motor racing. You see, the NSX-R GT's sole purpose was for motor racing in the Super GT class, and it was rather good at that. It won 36 races, 3 drivers' championships, and 2 manufacturers' championships. It was the first car in history to win the championship before the final race of the season, and remains the only car ever to score pole position and fastest lap every single race. How? With a massive body kit and 500 horsepower from that 3-liter, from that V6 engine is freaking monstrous. But that's not the only time it went racing. In fact, it won the SCCA World Challenge in 1997. It also won the Suzuka 1,000-kilometer endurance race 4 times, and most prestigious of the lot, it won the 24 Hours of Le Mans GT2 class in 1995 with a 350 horsepower version. Yeah, probably don't remember that one Le Mans, but there you go, it did. And then it was discontinued in 2005. It was a truly sad day for all of mankind. Until 2007, when Honda officially announced that a V10 powered sports car was in development, and nothing would stop them except for a global financial meltdown that nearly destroyed all the world's economies. Anyway, that slight niggle aside, in 2014, Honda came back at it and announced the Acura NSX concept in 2014, which made it into production. Now, the old NSX stood for New Sports Unknown Variable. This one was a bit easier. New Sports Experimental. Well, it's proper this time, at least. And this new car shares virtually nothing with the old car anyway, except for the engine. And that engine is bigger, a 3.5-liter V6, paired with not 1, not 2, but 3 electric motors, all working together to combine 573 horsepower, going to all 4 wheels. That's double the previous generation's NSX. And despite weighing 3,800 pounds, this 570 horsepower monster will do 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds and a top speed of 191 miles an hour. It'll do the quarter mile in 11.2 seconds, so unlike the original, this thing can seriously shift. But don't think they forgot their roots. The thing is incredible. It has fly-by-wire braking. It can independently brake each wheel around a corner to give you better grip. And it's pretty damn successful at it, winning both Motor Shred, Road and Track, and Car and Driver Car of the Year awards. Not bad. Now, I'm talking about these very good things about it, and it is very good, but it doesn't quite have the same motorsport success as the original. That being said, though, it did win the Production 2 class of Pikes Peak in 2019, and it won the 2018 Drivers and Manufacturers Championship with the Super GT category in 2018. Yeah, Super GT got even crazier. The car makes over 650 horsepower, weighing a scant over 2,400 pounds. That sounds nuts. The old NSX's job was always to make the supercar accessible to everyone. It was cheaper, it was more practical, and it had technologies most people could only dream of on a relatively affordable car, and the new NSX has done the exact same thing for the hybrid supercar. Look at the price, it's $150,000. That's a lot of money, sure, but when you look at the hybrid technology, the drivetrain, the handling, the suspension, you're looking at McLaren P1 technology, and that costs 10 times the price. 10 times the price. So while it may not be as beloved as the original, it is truly a worthy successor.